check. 1, 2. Hey. Hello, everyone. We are back with the 4th installment of the podcast that I don't have a name for yet. I have my friend J-Rock here, I guess the operator of House Dark, the man, the myth, the legend. Thanks for being here, brother.
Dude, thanks so much for having me on, my man.
Dude, yeah, man. We'll see. Before we get going, I wonder if maybe I should just turn your volume up just a little bit more.
We could turn it up a little bit, or I could talk a little louder, you know?
Yeah,
that's
either
gonna
one.
work.
Let me bump it up just a skosh.
Just a skosh. It's nice hearing myself in my head.
Right? Yeah.
Deep.
Yeah, I can hear the sound of your own voice. It's interesting.
For sure.
Yeah, man. So let's see. I figured we should start from the beginning where we met, which was, I was thinking about this the other day, was at Goodfellas in Springfield. You were the bartender there.
Okay.
Yeah, and we used to play shows there. It was like kind of a hot spot for the metal scene at the time.
Of course. Goodfellas was my baby.
Yeah, that's right. So that's actually when we met, and then I don't know. I think we hadn't really made a lot of contact until later down the road after that, where we started recording in your studio, and I would see you at the bars. You worked at eventually you moved over to
Doc's Pad after I left. So to give everybody a little context here, Charles and I met at Goodfellas probably around 2011, 2012.
Exactly.
You were playing Don't Ask Alice, and you also had $1 check, I believe.
At that time, I think I was just doing Don't Ask Alice.
Just Don't Ask Alice.
Yeah,
all right.
I think so.
So that's kind of how we met there. And then fast forward, I left Goodfellas. I owned that bar for a couple years, and then left that and went to Doc's Pad in 2013.
And at that time, were you doing Back in the Dark too?
Oh yeah, Back in the Dark has been around since 2002. So yeah, Back in the Dark has been my baby and my little band. So I started here in the scene here in 1997, 98.
Nice.
We started playing shows at the old John Henry's in 99.
Nice.
We were passing around tapes around the street. And that was basically that. That was a band called Under the Stairs. And then we went off from there. But to get back to where Charles and I met, that was just kind of a context there. But yeah, we've been known each other for about 8-9 years, and then we started getting serious when we started recording $1 check.
Exactly, yeah. So then we started recording at your studio, House Dark, which you were doing out of your house at the time.
Completely.
And we recorded an album together, and now you're a full-time audio engineer, right?
Yes, it's been a long little process, but something that I've been very, very blessed with and just stoked and excited about doing. I started this thing in 2016 with Pantheon. They were my first little band to kind of go for it. You guys were the first real actual band in essence that I got product out of.
Yeah.
Bless those boys in Pantheon, but we're still going to get something. But yeah, we did that in 2017, 18. We worked on that project together with $1 check, but I've been in the studio ever since. Been doing that, just grinding. I left Doc's Pad in June and went full-time audio, and I hope to stay here for as long as I can.
Heck yeah, man. That's super cool. Congrats on that.
Thank you.
And so you have a new studio now. Where's that located?
We do, yeah. Studio's there in South Eugene, basically. It's in the Churchill area there, but just been leasing a house and just been slowly but surely taking it over there. Having a really nice control room. I got
Very
a live
nice.
room. I got an amp room. I got a mic, a little vocal booth. I got an electric drum kit for people in there. So basically anything you want to do recording-wise, we can accommodate you at House Dark.
Heck yeah. So if you guys need recording or anything in that nature, hit them up. It's House Dark.
House Dark at .com, man. We got the .comer. So also, to kind of celebrate this, I am putting out my first ever House Dark sampler.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, that's something pretty new here. So that'll be coming out in about 2 weeks.
House Dark Sampler. What's
Sampler, that is going to be listings or just songs of all the bands that I've been working with.
Oh, okay.
So there's
Excellent.
a roster here of like bands. I'll just kind of read off a couple of them.
Yeah,
you might have
sure.
heard of a $1 check.
Yep.
But they're going to be on there. We got some Bloody Pineapples. We got Clip of Cartier. He's a hip hop dude here from Eugene. We got Sweater for an Astronaut. They're on there. We got an Isaac Hall. We got the old Sean Corkum from
really?
Texas. We got a
Nice.
track from him on there.
Oh,
So,
really?
Yeah.
Is he starting a project? Or
He is
just doing a
working on
single
some
with you?
stuff. He actually a single is what we have on the album, but on the sampler. But he does have a project, Eggs.
Okay,
is what
yeah.
he's working with
That's
right
right.
now with Bannon and whatnot. So they're kind of doing the whole thing. But he's been really excited about that. But these are just projects that I've been working with for the last 4 years, and I just figured now is the time to kind of like just showcase what House Dark can do for people, what the different things. A really
Absolutely.
cool little band called Grasp here in town. They're a jazz kind of influenced band, bunch of young kids. They got the title track on there, and it's just been really awesome to work with them.
Very cool.
So, yeah.
Nice. And you've been studying audio engineering for a while under where have you been?
Nail the Mix is basically what I started with, and then that turned into Unstoppable Recording Machine. It's all online, whatnot. Joey Sturgis was the CEO, president, and then kind of A.L. Levy and Joel Wanasek is in there. But I started back in I started in May of 2016, and I basically went a good whole 4 years. That led me to basically my life-changing moment, and that was interning with Chris Crummett up at Interlace Audio. So I was lucky enough to get a position with him and went up there for 5.5 weeks to work with him with several different bands. But the biggest one was Hail the Sun.
Nice. And
they just had an album that came out, and they're actually now doing the tour for it. So this was back in the early 2020s before COVID was around.
Yeah. That's been interesting times ever since we started this COVID journey, hasn't it?
Oh, it's been absolutely horrible. Yeah, just a mess in every which way. But yeah, that was back in February of 2020. I got to work with there. Interlace is a $6 million recording studio that Chris Crummett put together.
Wow.
He's just legendary, absolutely
and you got
famous.
To be there, and
I got to do the whole thing basically. I got to sit there with him. I got hired for one job and I spent 26 hours straight, and he said, "Are you serious?" And I was like, "Yeah, we got it all done." I did all the editing of the vocals and all the editing of the kick drum.
Nice.
And he's like, "For all the songs?" Yep. So that was kind of how I got there, and I just was a gopher. You don't talk much, you just do whatever they say, and when you're in the room of somebody that is so great at what they do, their ears are so magical, you kind of just basically live off of that.
Yeah.
And like for me, I was very lucky to just get to experience him working at his craft and me just kind of being a fly on the wall watching.
Yeah.
And when he had me do stuff, I just shut my mouth and did whatever I had to do. And it was kind of one of those things to where I learned more watching him and working in that for 6 weeks than I could in 5 years of school.
That's crazy. And so you said he had you just doing like the kick drum and the vocals, right? So like there must be like a huge team of people working on
Correct. There is, very much so. I mean, he was the one that kind of adopted his philosophy that everything is in parts, and then you have little tiny sessions. So we have just a drum session where we're working just with the drums. We have a vocal session, then we just have a guitar session, and we just start cleaning these all up. So we start raw, then we go to edited, then we go to automation, and then we start printing. Mm-hmm. So there's actually 4 sessions for each one of those. So a full session of a professional band, you're going to have about 15 to 20 Logic projects.
Wow. Yeah, that's incredible. Is there any one instrument you would say that is particularly more difficult than recording than others?
Yes and no. Drums obviously are going to be the toughest one because you have so many inputs and you have so many things going on. But to me, that's one of the easier ones because it's just mathematical and science. Mm-hmm. If you measure everything and you understand where your microphone placement is, and you understand all the gain staging, then actually drums are really easy. Yeah. But if you don't measure and you don't have your idea of what you're doing, if you haven't drawn it out, if you haven't tried all your preamps, if you haven't done all these things before, then the drums are by far the most difficult.
Sure, yeah. But that's one thing that you showed me that I'm still kind of working on, but it makes a big difference with like the phasing and the placement of microphones and stuff like that. Like once you showed me that, and then lining up those waves and getting things to hit like at the exact same moment just makes things like pop so much more and sound so much more crispy.
Oh, for sure, man. Exactly. And that's just part of just watching your faders, watching your levels, and making sure how your room works. Truly, when you're recording drums, you're actually recording a room. The drums just happen to be in that room.
Sure.
And so you kind of really understand that. The spot mics are there just to kind of complement everything, but you're truly recording a room. When we listen to drums, we're standing in front of it. We're not sitting there just listening to a kick drum. We're not listening to just a snare. We're listening to the rooms. And so about 50 to 60% of your full drum sound is going to be just the room mics.
Yeah.
And so you want to really just focus on that and make sure it is. And it's time consuming. I just worked with a project here with Inherit Extinction. They booked out House Dark for a whole 31 days. We went 8 hours a day. It was quite intensive, and we did a lot of magic work. But the drum session was a 6-day session. We spent 2 whole days just setting up.
Wow.
So when you can spend 16 hours tuning drums and setting things up so that everything is going to work properly, you're going to have a way better sound.
Yeah.
So going back to that question, guitars are by far the hardest to actually nail over and over and over again because you have so many variables. I can take the exact same guitar, the exact same cable, the exact same amp, and the exact same cabinet, and every guitar player will have a different sound.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, so many factors to really think about when it comes to recording. It's like it's almost like limitless of what you can do or the outcomes that you can get
all the way in every which way. And it's just so amazing that you actually can see the difference and then hear the difference when a player like Sean Corcoran, for example, he comes into the studio and how he plays, he's going to warm up for an hour before he even plays a note.
Yeah.
Then he's going to tune his guitar. Then he's going to intonate his guitar. And if so happens fret 14's a little sharp, we're not playing.
Yeah.
We're going to fix that.
Yeah.
There's some guitar players that have never intonated their guitar. and they're in the studio. And you're like, well, what are we really going to do here? And so I kind of have a rule at House Dark now. I've been spoiled and blessed to have Evertunes. So when the guitar player comes in, they can bring their own instrument. They can bring whatever they want. But if by 3 takes, if we're not perfectly in tune, we're going Evertune.
Evertune
is a style of guitar. It's
okay.
a style of guitar. It's a bridge that you actually put in guitar. So you can buy any guitar you want and then put this bridge in there. But it's a bridge that comes with 3 springs. So whenever you bend your string or say not fret properly, it stays in perfect tuning because the springs counterbalance as you bend.
Oh, wow.
So you can lock it and literally bend your string a full bend, 2 whole frets up, and it'll stay perfect pitch.
That's crazy. And you can apply that to any guitar, or is it
not any guitar? You have to have a bridge. You have to have an Evertune guitar, and so it's
Okay.
basically a bridge that goes into your guitar that you get modified at company Evertune.com, all that good stuff. So I fell in love with them, and now I have 3 of those at House Dark, and it's just kind of the way to go. It's cheating in every which way, but then it's not because you're using the gear and you're using the tools that you have to get the best result.
Sure.
So that's kind of what you're doing. Can I make a normal guitar sound good? Of course. But so far, I'm about 160 for 160 with the Evertune.
So going back to the Sean Corkum thing, so I know he's in Texas now, right?
Correct, yeah.
So are you guys doing things remotely, or are you going to have him come out?
We are completely remotely. Sean has been doing the Logic thing. He's called me several times, and we've had really good conversations on the Logic. And so that kind of leads me to my new project that I got going on, Bloody Pineapples. And so that is basically an all-internet band. So that started with COVID in January of 2020, and that is 13 different guys throughout the world, basically. We have 6 different countries represented that all started coming together as a kind of a joke and boredom to let's write a song every month.
Nice.
And that's kind of how that started. Well, Sean Corkum kind of knew about that, and he's kind of involved in this as well as a little bit. But then we just started working on his own music, and he started sending me some MIDI drums, and then I started reamping them, and then he started sending me some guitar files, and then he got really active with Logic and started learning a whole bunch of that stuff. So lately, he's kind of doing his own thing. I'm doing my own thing, and we're kind of releasing this little song together.
Cool. Nice. And so what's the most recent project for House Dark right now?
House Dark right now, we just finished up, like I said, a full 31 days with Inherit Extinction. So they just rashed up a whole engineering thing. We just did 8 songs with those guys. Pretty intense and pretty awesome thing for me. So right now I'm just chilling. Bloody Pineapples, my new current band. We have our first show coming up here in October. We have an album that's coming out, so we're just doing the finishing touches on that album there. We're going to have, I think, 8-9 songs. And again, that's just a collection of guys from around the world. I've been lucky enough to put together a local project called Bloody Pineapples as well. So we're going to be playing the songs that we've wrote for the last 2 years kind of live.
Nice.
So it's been a kind of a progress. And Bloody Pineapples takes us to the whole other thing is that the bands don't need to have egos. Bands don't need to think that they're better than anybody else. We're all about the music.
Yeah.
And we're all about playing. And that was kind of the foundation of the Bloody Pineapples, was just kind of understanding that everybody in it. And as I get closer to the launch and as we start doing more social media, things like that, we have a lot of things that we want to share with people because everybody or anybody could be a Bloody Pineapple.
That's cool.
And the idea is we'll have like a school set up and we'll have an internet site to where you can download the music, you can download backing tracks, you can submit things to it. And then on the website, there's going to be a player to where you can actually pick your roster of Bloody Pineapples.
Whoa.
Since there's so many of us.
Wow, that's really cool. Yeah, you've had some really cool, like, innovative ideas. Like, even with the Back in the Dark launches, like, you guys had a board game and some other stuff going.
We have. Thank you, Charles. Yeah, I do think a lot. I'm a little bit of a stoner, so I do definitely think a lot. But yeah, with Back in the Dark, we did come out with a card game. It was called Battle Tracks, and it was a game that you had a little board game with it, and you did tracks. I'm trying to get more bands on that. It's one of those things that with COVID, when it hit, it just destroyed this whole social interaction, hanging out with people. And like I was working DocsPad and we had a Sunday night group of people and we were getting ready to launch this whole thing, and then COVID happened. So I'm kind of just pausing all that. I do have another board game coming on. We do obviously are thinking of any ways to get our music out there that's on a different medium. And so that's kind of something that, you know, Jeff and I, that's the drummer of Back in the Dark, we've been working on for a long time. And we're characters and we make fun of ourselves, and that's the whole idea. And I mean, we're writing hip hop. Our last album that came out earlier this year, 420 of 21, was just all hip hop.
That's right. Yeah.
And it's funny because we're not these kind of guys at all, but we're totally enjoying it, and we have more to come.
Yeah, that was great. I gave the album a listen. I loved it. There was some really funny, like, hip hop comical stuff, and just some really good stuff on there. It was funny. There was it's like a I can't remember which one it is, but it's like kind of like a love sexy song.
Oh, we got them all. We always about the ladies, man. So our hit song right now is G Spot. We ain't gonna stop.
Okay, yeah.
Till we hit that G Spot.
Yeah.
And it's just been great. So that's kind of one of our runs. But we got just living tracks. Again, we're old and we're happy and we don't really care about what other people think. That's been the mantra of Back in the Dark forever. So the fact that we're setting down our drums, setting down our instruments, and now just grabbing a microphone with backing tracks and doing hip hop, it's been just a new world for us.
It's nice to be able to create with freedom and just do what is fun and what feels good, and not be so pressured by release date, or you got to have this certain style or this sound. And it's nice to just be able to create what you want to create when you want to create it.
Completely. And that was kind of a mantra of House Dark as well. It was just creating a studio here for people in town, Eugene, local areas. They could come and play whatever music they wanted, and no one's going to judge you, or no one's going to say it's not good or it's not going to work.
Yeah.
Because the whole idea is we're just creative.
Yeah. And you've recorded everything from reggae to hip hop to metal. And
yeah, that's kind of the sampler. I'm really excited to give that out. I mean, I have jazz on there. I have reggae. I have hip hop. I have, punk. I have pirate radio on there. I mean, there's going to be some stuff on there that is, very raw and very not professional in ways, but that's the reason it's there. It's kind of the sound of the music. You don't need to doctor something up if it's not needed. Yeah. And so, to me, kind of just showcasing all that stuff. I just truly love music. I mean, I'll embarrass myself, but I'm a pop head. I love pop more than anything.
Dude, I feel that though. I'm saying, like, I love good music, and pop, sometimes there's good pop music.
Dude, pop music is the shit, dude, and it's stupid, but I don't really listen to metal. I don't really listen to much music but top 40. At my house, I listen to anything that is just making money, and it's not that I'm shooting for that. I'm not in this for money or any reason, but the thing is I love good hooks. I love a song that when I'm in the shower I can hum it back. I love a song that when I'm driving down the road I'm like, damn, that's still in my head. And that's a damn Katy Perry song. I mean, Anderson .Paak right now is doing some incredible music, dude, and his little grooves and things that he's doing right now. And it's weird because I look one way and I feel one way, but musically I really like my pop.
Yeah, it's funny, looking at you look like a rock guy, but then you're making this pop stuff, and it's fun, man. I love it. Especially and watching you and Jeff, your drummer, like you guys perform, like you always put on such a great show, and you guys are always having so much fun with the outfits and the songs, and it's great.
It is, yeah. It's all about the outfits. We got to play Crest Fest here in August, and
that's right. Yeah,
that was one of our first shows back.
I was so bummed I missed that because that's like my hometown. So
for really reals, and it is. Shout out to Brad, the gentleman that owns the property out there. It's something that's been going 11 years, and it's the highlight of my year.
It looked great. The stage was awesome, and lights and everything.
The stage is probably one of the best stages in towns, just because of the size of it, and then of course the location. You're in the middle of nowhere basically, but on this beautiful little serene kind of like farm area,
so just like outskirts of Crestwell.
It's just outside. I mean, it's actually in the middle of Crestwell. It's literally from that first break of 180. What is it? 188 or 182? 82. Yeah. I mean, it's not even 2 miles from that exit.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's right.
I gotta go check that out one of these times because I've heard about it, but I've never been to one.
Yeah, it's far out. I mean, they did 800 2 years ago in 2019, I believe. They took 2020 off because of COVID, and then they did 550 plus this year. And it's just amazing. They have 10 bands, they have fire dancers, they have skydivers, they have food, they have alcoholic snow counts. Yeah, the skydivers come in from Crestwell.
That's right. The
belly dancers, fire dancers. I mean, it's a show.
Wow.
I mean, a full-on show to where bless his heart, but Brad puts up a pretty penny so that we all can do this.
Sure.
And it is pretty amazing that someone would give back like this and has forever. And it's one of the best things. I heard about it for years and years and years, just kind of wasn't really, I guess, interested enough to go or know to go. And then when I finally went, I won't miss another one.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like it's been on my radar for a while, but I just haven't like known enough about it, I guess, or known when it's going down or what it is really. But I would love to go check it out I guess next time if I have the opportunity.
Yeah, next August I'll let you know, Charles, for sure.
Yeah, that'd be sweet.
Yeah, we got to do the costume changes there, and it's real nice because I come out in my metal look and I have my makeup on and all that, and we played on purpose all country songs because this was kind of one of those festivals. And nice. So we took all our music and stripped it down, so we purposely look one way but then sound a completely different way. And so fans immediately kind of was like, what the fuck? And then they were like, wait a minute, this is kind of hilarious.
Yeah.
And it took them a minute. We did start the whole set off with NASCAR, which is non-athletic sports centered around rednecks.
Oh, no.
Might not have been the best option for a biker festival / down in Crestwell, but we wanted to because our guy, and Back in the Dark, we want to tease you, we want to make you uncomfortable so that you laugh.
Yeah.
And you see us because we're going to make ourselves vulnerable. So we did that whole there and started with our costume sets. And Jeff was, for a lack of a better term, G'd out. And, he had his fake necklace on and he had his boots on, his Timberland boots, and he had his little cut off sleeves. And I mean, he was looking straight up like a little G. Yeah. And then I'm in the metalhead and we're playing country music. I've been going all digital now, which is something I'm not proud of, but I've done. So I have no amps, no cabinets.
That's what I was about to say. Is I thought the pictures that I saw of you guys, it was there's no instruments. You guys were just doing like MC hip hop thing.
Exactly. So we start our set off now with a guest singer. So it's kind of the Back in the Dark way is to bring somebody new on that does a song with us as a guest singer. Then we'll play our old stuff from the early 2000s, and then we drop all that and we go straight to our hip hop.
Nice.
So we do. And so yeah, we I have a digital setup there. I've been playing this Line 6 Shuriken. Again, I apologize for all the digital talk I'm saying. I hate myself, but
that's cool. I think like the people that listen to this, like a lot of them are are into music or do have something to do with it. I think that I think it'll translate.
Well, beautiful, yeah. And so again, so it's all digital. So on that guitar, I can load up 25 different guitars. I can load up models, and then I can choose 10 different tunings. So at any time, I can have 25 different guitars simulated, and then I can have 10 different tunings.
Wow.
And so I can play banjo, and I can play acoustic guitar, and I can play 12-string guitar, and then I can play metal guitar, and then all that stuff, all with different tunings, all on my guitar.
That's crazy.
So it is crazy. So we kind of started off there with some banjo and some acoustic guitar, but we're all dressed up and we look all metal.
Yeah.
And so it's like, what the heck is going on with these guys? And then we drop all that and we play pop hip hop.
Yeah.
And it went over extremely well to where we're kind of laughing ourselves. We haven't done this sooner, but we had practice yesterday and we have a show coming up here in November, Back in the Dark. And,
cool.
And yeah, we're playing Sessions November 6th.
Oh,
So,
nice.
Yep.
At
So we're
Sessions.
yeah,
huh?
we're excited to get back and doing that stuff. But again,
That
that's
is
going to be our
exciting.
first real hip hop show.
November 6th, you said?
November 6th, yeah.
Nice.
So we're going to be doing that. The big next show for me will be Bloody Pineapples, October 9th. That's at the Wow Hall. A Sweater for an Astronaut and New World Sinners going to be playing that as well.
Nice.
Otherus. And so, yeah, we got a really good lineup on that stuff. But I'm trying to play a show once a month. House Dark is just going to be going. Right now I'm working with Hiding Jekyll. We're finishing up a little project that we've had for a long time with that. They've been doing some real good stuff. They played also at Crest Fest.
Oh, nice.
So,
I was about to ask what some of the other bands were that played Crest Fest because
Yeah,
I hadn't heard anything about
Coxled
the
is
lineup.
pretty much the leader of it. Coxled is a band of guys that come together for just Crest Fest, and they
Okay.
create a band called Coxled, and they
Okay.
do covers and just are kind of unique ways of covers. So they're kind of like the leaders of Crest Fest because their show is always phenomenal. And then you have Guilty Pleasures that always headlines, and they're another cover band. And so they do kind of just 80s and 90s nostalgia covers. And then originals, you had Hiding Jekyll there, you had Back in the Dark there, Sweater for an Astronaut usually plays there. You'll have a couple other like acoustic acts and things, but it's
Nice.
mainly, the day shows are kind of originals and the night goes to cover. But, huge dance floor, can fit over 250 people.
Nice.
Lights, the whole thing. And like I said, food galore, tents. I mean, it's set up like you're in the middle of a huge festival,
Yeah.
and then you remind yourself you're in Crestwell.
Yeah. Right.
We joke, but he could do this every month, and it would be absolutely nuts. But again, this is his property and his house, so
Very cool.
livelihood. So
Yeah. Speaking of Sweater for an Astronaut, I bump into Chris, the drummer here in
Correct.
the hallways. He just got a nice new drum set. He's what I forget what brand it was he went with, but I saw some
SJC,
pictures. It was beautiful.
yeah,
Oh, that's right.
SJC,
SJC,
yeah. And he's very nice custom kit, sparkle, and then done up real well there.
Yeah.
So we've been practicing.
Were you recording them too?
I have. I've
Yeah.
done the last two Sweater for an Astronaut little EP /
That's right.
album thing. So they actually have a new one coming up here. We're in the talks of getting in November.
And I remember I think it was like right before COVID happened. They were getting ready to release an album. They were going to do a show at the Wow Hall.
This is the show.
Okay, that's
this
what
is
I thought.
that. And
Yeah,
so
it was-
all the tickets are still redeemable. So
Okay.
if you bought tickets back in March 20
Yeah.
of 2020, that show is still valid for us now. And so that's how long we've been waiting to put out
Yeah.
the CD. The crazy thing is they've already gone through all their merch. So we bought all the merch for that show, T-shirts, CDs, everything, spend a couple $1,000s, and it's all gone,
Yeah.
which is a positive
That's-
thing.
yeah, it's
but,
good.
but now we get to do it all over again for the show.
They're
And
going to
we're-
show
we're-
up at the show and they're on all their gear. And
and we have all
show
this
support.
stuff. Yeah, exactly. So it's been kind of unique to see how COVID has changed some of those things. But yeah, this is a show that's been made up now, 20 months late.
It is interesting to see how COVID has changed those things. And like, it's interesting now, like these times where I feel like the thing to do is to put content out on the internet and build your following there, and then go play for your audience,
The world has completely changed, and you're so right, Charles. Yeah, I mean, back when I was doing this, it was all about how many people you could get to a show, how many people you could entertain and what shows you're playing,
Yeah.
what tours you're on, where you're going. That mattered everything.
Mm-hmm.
In today's world, that is nothing because
Yeah.
obviously COVID has taken that away. So the fastest way to make sounds or make yourself known in the music industry is to do it yourself. Have a podcast, have a home base, a YouTube, some channel that you can control, have a Twitch stream, and get followers.
Yeah, build a following. That's something that's it's so beneficial, and it's really fun to do. Getting to interact with your fans and post content and show them what you're up to, and songs and videos that you're proud of, and just build the following that way. And it's interesting, like, because like with I've done a lot of touring with some of my other bands and stuff, and like while it's really fun and it's a good experience to learn how to do all that and how to have a functioning working band, but if you don't do things right, you kind of end up spinning your wheels, and you might travel 4 or 5 hours to play for 10 people or something, what I mean? Where is it now, if you do things right and you build your following and, you generate interest and you make people want to see you, then, build the anticipation. And then when it comes time for your show, people come and they want to see you.
That's the goal, and that's what we're all trying to do. Again, with this time that we're in, it's still tough because some of our fans and some of our friends and family members can't come out because of the situations or what they are, so they can't even support us. But that is what you're saying is exactly the way it is today. Mm-hmm. And it's all about building these followers, building a social connection with people to where when you're not on the road, that you still have an outlet of getting things out. Some bands that did some of these streamings and some of these virtual streams, they made more money during a virtual stream than they ever had on a tour. Mm-hmm. Because you got to understand, they weren't paying for all the people it takes to get on tour. They weren't paying for all the gas. They weren't paying for the hotels. They weren't paying for the venues. They were literally in one spot. And so bands have looked at that. It scares me a lot to think maybe bands won't tour because now they can make the money they needed to at home. But with that being said, I see so many bands trying to tour, so that makes me feel really good.
I don't feel like there's anything that's ever going to replace that live element. watching your favorite band live. Like, Never. There's just nothing. I don't think that can replace that. No video that you could watch on YouTube or anything like that. As cool as that stuff is, but I think the main product is your show, your performance.
Completely. It's the feeling that you get from the crowd.
Yeah.
And I'm very guilty of that. I mean, you let me play in my bedroom and I'm having a blast. You put me in front of 5 people and I'm really having fun.
Yeah.
And that's kind of one of those things that you do. And that's what we all look for, and especially those famous musicians that have been touring for years and years. I mean, this has been a gut punch for them, not being able to get their outlet.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's been a couple guys, Chris Motionless from Motionless in White just came out saying how depressed he was and how literally he had to go seek outside help because his outlet was gone. Adam D from Killswitch Engage just came out and said he's never been so depressed in his life and just so messed up.
I can't imagine, because those guys, it's their livelihood. That's how they make their money, and that's what they do as a profession. And
it's everything. It's their entertainment. Everything. It's their fun. It's their money. It's their job.
Yeah.
It's all it is, and it's just kind of gone. I mean, Mastodon's another band that I've been following, and they say they have enough material for 4 albums.
Wow.
Because they just got stuck in the studio because they knew they weren't touring, and they just sat there and played it. But is that mentally healthy for them? Well, we don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think they planned on just sitting in a studio for a year and a half. They would like to play their music.
Yeah.
And it's tough to capitalize on that feeling of energy that you get when you write a new song if you don't get to perform it. And that's why we do these tours and we take them on the road, because we kind of see how the fans like it.
That's true.
We don't know what song per se is going to be the best one.
Yeah.
But if you see the mosh pit hit and everyone's going nuts and people after the show are telling you, do that song, well, that was the song, guys.
Yeah, that's the one. We thought this was going to be the single, but I guess it's this one.
And me being a producer and being the other side of it, I watch all the time where we can go in the studio and say, this is the song, this is the song, this is what we're all putting our money into. And then at the end of the album, there's always another song that's better.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's funny how that works.
And so you can't make a good song great, but you can't make a shitty song great. I mean, maybe, it's one of those things that goes back and forth. And with bands, it's all about doing it over and over and over again, just like cooking, just like riding a bike, any kind of things that you do over and over and over again, you'll refine to where you get it.
Yeah, that's all right. The repetitions are, for me as a player, is what helps me solidify, whatever it is, whatever part or song I'm trying to learn, is just doing it over and over and over. And the more you do it, the better you get. And it's just kind of the way it works with anything, I think, that you're trying to be good at,
Completely. Yeah. And the big thing that I see with musicians is learning actually how to practice.
Yeah.
Actually knowing what you need to do to get better,
Mm-hmm.
and if you can't play the song at the tempo, well, then you need to slow it down and learn it.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have a tempo, then what are you playing the song for? You know, like you got to have a kind of the foundation and understanding of what the song is for. And if you're playing with other people, that's a huge thing.
Mm-hmm.
We're experimenting right now with in-ear monitors and backing tracks. And that's just a whole new world of situations, because now
absolutely.
we're playing to this click in your head and you're playing to this little beep, and you have backing tracks going, so they sound really cool, but you really can't hear yourself anymore. But you're part of a big
It's
team.
so important to be able to hear when you're doing that kind of thing, like, because you could be, in your studio practicing along to the click, and things are happening just great, but once you get on stage and things are even louder, and you don't know what kind of unpredictable things are going to happen, vibrations from the bass or setting off the drum triggers, or whatever it is. But
I love that one right there. That's a very good one, when you just have the secret drum trigger go boom.
Yeah,
boom.
what is that?
You're like, what is that? Like, I don't know, I'm not doing anything, I'm not hitting anything. Boom.
Or
damn.
you don't have the right in-ear monitors, it falls out of your ear, and you lose spot in the song, and you have to hit stop or whatever. But you gotta account for all those little things. But I was talking with Skylar about this on the last podcast, but it's really worth it and beneficial to the performance as a whole when you have all that stuff dialed, and it's just things are clicking perfect.
It's basically every show we've went and seen for the last 10 years,
Yeah.
there's been a backing track going with the band, and that just keeps everybody on page, and it keeps everything there, and it really does put on a show. I mean, we can play our songs for you live, or we can play them with a backing track, and it's night and day difference because of just the grooves. I mean, we all get excited on stage. We all get ready to rush. I mean, this is the biggest thing we live for.
Yeah.
And to say, no, slow down, when we've been waiting 20 hours to get on stage, we've been in a car, we've been traveling, we've been
hard.
eating.
Even when you don't think you're rushing, and you're playing live without something like a click to keep you steady, it's like you don't even realize you're doing it.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, you're just so excited.
20 BPM faster, just put on stage.
Yeah.
Every single thing. And you feel comfortable to where, like, again, that's what makes the professionals truly professional.
Yeah.
And, kind of go back there as the Lollapalooza thing that they just did in Chicago. I was blown away by that. Just watched so many shows. And
oh, yeah, I watched the Limp Bizkit performance.
Okay.
I loved it.
Okay, well, I'm glad you brought that up, because 100% guilty pleasure. I didn't tell anyone in my family. At 5 a.m. by myself in house dark, I watched the whole entire Limp Bizkit thing.
Yeah.
I was so blown away that the next day I had to out myself, and me and the family watched the whole thing.
Yeah.
I was so jealous of watching it with my family that night I watched it again. So I watched Limp Bizkit, a Lollapalooza live 3 times.
Nice.
In
I watched it
24 hours.
twice. It was great. I loved it. It's like, that was like my first like real band that I was into.
No shit.
Yeah, it was my first CD I ever bought. Was the chocolate or hot dog flavored water.
Yeah, Chocolate Starfish.
Yeah, Chocolate Starfish, and that was like the first music that I really like identified with and really liked. So I'm a huge fan. I mean I love Limp Bizkit, and to still see them putting on great performances like that was really cool. And I noticed they have a different drummer right now, but he was slaying it. They sounded great.
He was just a fill-in there guy. He was I don't know that gentleman's name actually. Dave Otto's the original drummer.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what's going with him, if he's coming back or whatnot. But it was really nice to see Sam Rivers, DJ Lethal,
Yeah.
good old
I know
Fred
DJ
Durst,
Lethal
and
too.
my boy Wes Borland.
Yeah.
He is my
He was
favorite,
crushing it
dude.
too.
Oh, dude, Wes is.
Come in with that intro.
Oh, dude,
just
the 2
chugging.
minutes and 16 seconds. They did one riff over and over. I tried to count
And it was
it,
sick.
but complete sick. I
Yeah.
mean, his guitar. And did you see later in the set when his guitar was messing up and he threw it into the crowd?
Oh, I didn't see that.
Okay, yeah.
I
He gets
guess
really
I missed
pissed at that show. He gets really pissed at his guitar, and he throws his guitar into the crowd. And he comes back and grabs his guitar from his little tech, and he looks at the tech like how I would look at a tech, like, you motherfucker. And then at the end of the show, you see him go and hug that tech. Because he definitely gave him some words. But
Yeah.
Wes is my baby. I absolutely adore Wes, everything he has. I used to sit, to give you a background, at a park when I was homeless in 1999 in Medford, Oregon, with a Wes Borland, Fred Durst covered Guitar World. And I read that thing, and I played that thing, and I looked at that magazine for so long that it became like trash, because it was so folded up and so modeled in my car that I just eventually threw it away.
Wow.
But Limp Bizkit was, as silly as it is, just something huge for me at that time period. And so we're talking 99, 2000, 2001. And to see him come back 20 years later and just slay it blew me away. And Fred said many a times, there's no backing track. They did all that live. They're that good.
Yeah.
They play like that because they can. Now, is it cheating because you have DJ Lethal behind you? Yeah, that is cheating. He can play everything and he can fit you in. And yeah, there's backing tracks and
Puts
he's
all
doing
the samples where
he's
they
doing
need to go.
everything.
But
Everything
that's
is
really
amazing.
cool too in itself.
That's the cool part about it.
Yeah.
So, and they called out a lot of bands on stage of just like, look at this. And if you go back and look at the Lollapalooza and how many people had backing tracks and how many of those messed up.
Yeah.
I mean, Post Malone, bless his heart, one of the best dudes, phenomenal. He had a backing track going and a gentleman on stage just completely missed it. And, you know, here's this show and here's this huge thing, the headliner, and you miss your whole part.
Yeah.
And it's not his fault. There's a lot of things going on. Post was awesome. It's just, you know, you get up there, you get the excitement. Like you said, he jumps, one of those monitors fall out of your ear.
Yeah.
You can't hear.
Yeah.
All of a sudden you're lost.
Stuff happens.
Your backing track comes on and you're a verse behind.
Yeah.
And now what do you do?
Yeah.
And I mean, there was another guy that made a grip of money off of his backing track failing because it went so huge. Off of the TikTok and all the people making fun of him.
Oh,
where now
really?
we're thinking, was it staged? You know, because he had a mental breakdown. I don't know. I can't remember the gentleman's name, but he cried on stage.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, 'cause
I
his
didn't
backing
catch any
track-
of the other performances besides Limp Bizkit, to be honest, but
Yep.
it was pretty awesome to watch that.
Totally, yeah. I Modest Mouse is one that I would 1,000% recommend.
Nice.
Even
I've
if
seen
you,
them.
Even if you don't like them or whatnot,
Yeah.
they put on a show that is truly true. And they had one gentleman that I tried to count. In the first 4 songs, he played 17 instruments. In the whole entire set
Whoa.
of 11 songs, he played 29.
Wow.
So when you have one guy in your band that can play 29 instruments on stage,
Yeah.
we're doing great. We're
Yeah.
doing real good. And every one of them rotate and move, and they understand the colors, and they know where they need to be, and everything's perfect. And I mean,
Yeah.
Modest Mouse, wow.
Yeah, they put on a great show. I saw them at Cuthbert in Eugene, I don't know, a couple of years ago, probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, something like that. But
Yeah.
they really did put on a great show.
They are. Their new album that just came out, I've been really listening to the crap out of that. The way
Oh, they have a new album?
They do. Yep.
Oh.
And the lead singer, Isaac, he has an amazing way of telling stories and saying things that just how we all think of things, but just in a different way.
Yeah.
And how he does it gives me goosebumps and gets me excited. He has a song right now called Lace Your Shoes, and it's just basically about a parent getting that appreciation of how hard it is to work to see your child get old enough to tie their shoes.
Yeah.
And just to put that into context to where it makes you cry and it makes
Yeah,
you
that's
feel.
powerful.
And it gives you life and death all off of lacing your shoes.
Yeah.
But if you look as a parent, how hard you struggled and how hard the world is sometimes and what you just need to do just to get your kid
Just to get him
be
there.
5 years old.
Wow.
Just to get your kid to tie your shoes.
Yeah.
You know, and like when the kid can't even understand, you still talk to him. You still show them. You still treat them with the compassion and love, even though they're so small and they can't do anything. To where you're just the goal is just to tie your shoes,
Yeah.
really, because that means we're getting up today.
Yeah.
That means we're getting dressed. And I have a joke that I really think that the quality of life is: did you put socks on? And I won't, I lie. I got socks on right now, and so I brush my own things. But I've gone. My record so far since COVID is 17 days of where you don't put socks on. I love to go at least 3 or 4 days with no socks a week. And when you can say you don't put socks on, you've obviously worked really hard to
Yeah.
be comfortable.
Yeah.
And I had a professor back in 2004 tell me that because I called him out because I never seen him wear socks. And he said that if he has to wear socks, it's a shitty day. and it's the truth because that means you obviously are working. And if you're working so hard that you got to put socks on, well, then reevaluate yourself because we all want to be comfortable.
Well, my feet get sweaty, so I like wearing socks.
Yeah,
but
that's what
I
I'm
get
saying.
it. I get where you're coming from.
Yeah, it's a weird philosophy. And so I count those days on my calendar of how many days I have to put socks on and whatnot. And, you know, spoiled to be sitting in the studio sometimes for 16 hours in a day. that
Yeah.
I could say stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so that is kind of what it is. But it's a lot of work and it's a lot of fun. And then when you get the right combination of musicians, you get the reward.
Yeah.
And you get these little things. I mean, watching you guys grow. I mean, $1 Check was one of my first little babies. I mean, first major project that I worked on. We spent, I would say, close to 200 to 300 hours
Yeah.
on that project together. Then you guys got signed. You guys went on tour. You
Yeah.
guys had that bus. I mean, $1 Check was on the cover of the Register Guard.
Yeah.
You guys were selling the wow. I mean, you guys blew up.
Yeah.
And then that was all because you guys had a vision. You guys worked really, really hard. You guys met up with me. We started working together, and you guys got you a product that allowed you guys to continue on.
Yeah.
Now the rest of the world, that's that. But that's the goal for every band.
Yeah, it's crazy because, like, you know, like the motivation, it comes from like a small group, but it takes so many pieces and so many other people and things to line up for, you know, things to go right and to be able to go on a, you know, 2.5 month tour and to be able to record an album and to put it together. It's like it takes so many minds to make something like that, and it's just like it's a beautiful thing. Kind of like going back to the like to tie your shoes thing, and like all the stuff that goes into making, like, you know, each and every song and album, and tour, and it's just there's a lot that goes into all that stuff.
So much so, and when you actually get to see behind the curtain of how much work is actually done with a song,
Yeah.
when you really look at that, and like something that I just actually epiphany happened to me. So this experience at Interlace Studio with Chris happened to me in February of 2020, and it wasn't until literally 2 weeks ago, as I was sitting there recording in Heretic Extinction, did it hit me on the head. But I watched Chris freak out and literally like pull his hair out and lose it because the singer was not breathing on pitch. So when you're singing and you're taking your breaths need to be in the tempo of the song, and they need to be in the key of the song. So if we're singing in D minor, every one of your breaths needs to be in D minor.
That's crazy.
Okay. And so I chewed on that because when I was listening to the singer, it was gorgeous. It was singing so pretty, every green light, everything. He had a singing coach, he had a yoga coach, he had a health instructor. So you got to think, this gentleman that's singing in the studio spent $10,000 of his own money for 3 weeks with vocal coaches and therapy and everybody here to make sure he's the best. And when he's singing, we are yelling at him because he is not breathing in D minor.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. I can't even imagine like trying to breathe in D minor. Like
you pitch your breaths.
Yeah.
You sit there with a tuner and you pitch your breaths so that we know the song. So now when I saw that, I was blown away because you're just like, what in the hell is this, the level? And like, I've told this story to hundreds of people, and a lot of people get angry because they say this isn't real life and you don't have to do this. Well, bullshit. You do have to do this. This is real life, and that's why their records sell thousands and thousands. They're all over the radio and they're all over because they sound really good.
Yeah.
No offense. Well, what was the epiphany that hit me? How in the hell are you going to splice together a vocal take when every breath is a different pitch?
Yeah.
You can't.
It makes me like I've seen like, some of like the projects that you show me, like your Logic projects, and like there's so many tracks like happening at one time, and it's just crazy. Like just a guitar take could be like 10 or more tracks.
At least. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so just to kind of understand, to kind of take that back, is that if you're breathing in the correct pitch, then I can splice you and I can cut your vocal take up anywhere because every one of your breaths is on D minor, is on a D, and I can hold that and I can move it around. Where if you're breathing in G and all of a sudden you sing a really good part and you end on your breath on E, I can't splice those because it's going to have a pitch separate in your breath.
And it's crazy too because it's like there's not like so many tracks, is because it's like you can't play your part beginning to end like that. It's just like like that's what you need to do to create the sounds that are that people are working with today, and that what's I guess what's current and what's modern.
Completely. I mean, when we record guitar, I make the guitar player first show me the riff, and then whatever string he is not using in that riff, we mute. So that thus your guitar changes the whole time you have it because you're only playing the strings that are active. Mm-hmm. Everything else is muted. Yeah. And when I mute that, we have cloth, we have foam, we have different techniques that we use to mute all that stuff. And you're playing your part very, very small. And you're playing little tiny bits of it over and over and over again, just little tiny parts. I mean, when we went to record a song, there's 9 guitar tones in one song. So you're playing that song 9 times to get all those tones, and then us behind the scenes cut it all up. So you as a musician goes, all right, take 1, take 2. Well, then you start getting into reamping, and you start understanding how this goes, to where you're taking DIs and you're taking these direct inputs from these guitar players, and now you're reamping and making them sound huger. Yeah. But you can't use the same one every time.
And when you start doing stuff, that meticulously, like you really got to know all your parts before you go into the studio, and like know exactly what you're trying to play, and that you're prepared to do it on command, really.
Yeah, the band I've been working with in Heretic Extinction, really proud of those boys. We did an album last year together in October, and then I said, all right, if we're going to do this, let's get serious. In February, we had a meeting. We talked about it. By June, they had to have me all the pre-pro. So that means all the songs, drums, guitar, drum MIDI, bass MIDI, guitar MIDI, all done. Then we recorded those. Then we had a meeting August 1st about how we were going to record those songs. Mm-hmm. And that's just the way it is. So
it's like you've recorded it already before going in to record it.
To record it, yeah. And to take you full circle, Hail the Sun spent $10,000 to record the pre-pro for Chris Crummett at Interlace. Wow. And we got through about 10 minutes of that until Chris threw it in the trash.
Oh my gosh.
But we have to have a professional way to listen to if your songs are going to be professionally recorded. Mm-hmm. And so that's just the quickest way. So if a band can send me a pre-pro, I can tell you in about 3 minutes the chance you have to actually sounding like that.
Wow.
And we can make it happen if you want. But to think that you're going to come in the studio and you're going to play a 4-minute guitar part 4 times, and we're going to comp that, and it's done. Those days are way over, my friend.
Yeah.
Way over.
Yeah, back then, or, I don't know when, but, that was the standard at one point,
I mean, most of my life,
Yeah.
I started on tape, Charles. I started recording on tape in 1992. I started hitting the tape, and I would just do tapes. And if we did 4, that was what we had on a 4-track, and we comped that all down. That was what you had going. Then drums only had 3 takes, and then we comped that down. Vocals, 2 takes. Bass player, oh, bud, you got 1 take. Get it, my man. That's all you got. And we did this stuff for years and years. This was life. You had 4 tracks. That's all you did. So the drums went through everything. Then we bounced them down. Then the guitars went through everything. We bounced it down. And this is on tape.
When you're recording the drums, are you doing multiple microphones into one track?
Yep. Multiple microphones all summed down into one. Exactly. Trying to save tracks.
And so you're mixing before you're even recording it.
Correct. And you got to remember bouncing everything down. So the whole idea of computers that were summing everything down to, say, a group bus or one channel, that's what we did with tape. And so I would have 6 microphones on your drums, and that would sum all down to 1 of my 4-track.
Yeah.
And then I would save that onto my tape.
Yeah.
And now if I did my guitar and I started doing really shitty guitar takes, it would stretch the tape, and now there'd be parts where your drums would slow down and speed up.
Jeez.
And that's where I punched in that. So you'd have to have tape backups. So you have to once you get your take done, you'd have to clean it up to another take. So I'd have 4 or 5 tape decks all linked.
Wow.
And know which one was the first and which one was the end, because it would literally change the sound.
Wow.
And I would walk around downtown Eugene thinking I had gold in my hands because I recorded this tape in my garage.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was so ghetto and so gangster that you're just like, wow, but it was the love of doing it. And to where now we're so spoiled that I have recall. I can hit one button and every fader and everything moves to exactly where it was the last time I was there.
Yeah.
I mean, can you that idea is just so unbelievable when it comes to music.
Yeah. The technology's come such a long ways. It's crazy to think about. Was it the Beatles that recorded a whole album with SM57s or something like that?
Possibly. I mean, the Beatles were the ones that created stereo.
Yeah.
So those guys were doing so many drugs and so much in it that they literally would cut up their tapes and put it on the floor and then do master drugs and then retape them together and see what sounds.
It's weird. You listen to the panning on albums like that, and it's just so different than what they would do nowadays. And the Led Zeppelin song where you can hear John Bonham's bass drum pedal squeaking in the background if you're listening to it. It's weird because my cousin showed me that, and it's I never noticed it until he pointed it out, and then after he pointed it out, it's I could never unhear it.
Yeah, and it's so true. And there's
but they're still timeless, and they still sound amazing, and they're still iconic, for what they are.
For reals, because we didn't know any better. And that's the nice thing. If a Led Zeppelin song came out right now in 2021 and it sounded exactly like how it did in 1972, we would be puking.
Yeah.
It's gross.
Yeah.
But the thing is we heard it back then when that was the best.
Yeah.
And so we appreciate it. To now it's the nostalgia and the vintage area. So when you have a band like today, if you're not spending, $5,000 to $10,000 on your music, you're going to sound...
This is kind of an interesting question that I just came up with is are there bands nowadays that are trying to replicate that older sound? And if they are, is there a way to do it with modern ideals to make those kind of sounds?
Well, it's just going back in the analog world. Mm-hmm. So you're just using all analog gear, and you're making sure that everything is just set up phase accurate, and you're just using real amps and real cabinets, and you're going for it. There are bands that are trying it. I can't give you any good examples off the top of my head. I know Greta Van Fleet.
I can't really think
those
of
guys are incredible. And so if you look at them and what they're doing right now, they're at a phenomenal band, and they are the Led Zeppelin of 2021. And so they're doing that. But again, they're studio digital. We record with Pro Tools. We do everything the fresh way.
And it's just a totally different animal.
Yeah,
so
it's just a different vibe. You have a band called Weed Eater out of North Carolina that's very raw and very organic and, again, very analog. Red Fang, again, they're very analog. They play, amps, the Sun amps and all that stuff. They try to keep it all that way. And so they a lot of bands still try to really do that because there's a special feeling. I mean, I would much rather plug into an amp head and a cabinet and put a microphone in front of it. Believe me, I really would.
Yeah.
But that takes a little bit of time where I can get you the sound that I need right now in 1 second. Mm-hmm. And so that's just the kind of the world that's changed. And if you're changing tunings and if you're playing a lot of different things, you need that at your disposal. And so kind of as weird as it sounds is you're using the tools to make sure that the product you're giving them is the fastest, easiest product you can give them.
Yeah, because studio time is, it's not cheap, and you got to be able to do stuff quick. And
I mean,
like I said, too, you make sure you're ready when you go in the studio, you know exactly what you're going to do because it's, it's all money.
It is all money and time. And the big thing is like I said, when we're recording drums, we're capturing a room. We're not really recording the drums. We're capturing what the drums sound like in that room. And when we're recording an album, you're actually recording energy. You're creating this kind of monster that you're going to jump onto and feel. It's not just the bass player, not the guitar player, not the drummer. It's not all of the individual parts. It's one big thing. But how do you see that at the end thing? And that's something that...
Especially when you're capturing them isolated.
Right. And kind of through the process of being able to see professionals do this, and then myself be lucky enough to work with about 15 bands now, is that you kind of see the end goal before they sit down with you. So then you lead them to that end goal.
Right.
And if they see the same end goal as you do, then this project's very successful. A lot of times, the end goal for the producer or the engineer is different than the band. And maybe the band can't play what the engineer and the producer wants.
Sure.
So thus we get into this issue. Or the producer is making them sound too posh, too legit, too proper, and this band's more gutter, and they want to sound more raw.
Yeah.
Well, we have to know these things before we start, because
it's good to go in with the demo for sure.
Completely. And I won't really record anyone unless we've sat down at House Dark and we've played your music back to you, and we can take notes.
Yeah.
And we can literally say, and I record that so we can listen to it, so we actually know what we're saying. So it's not like I have to second guess myself of what part we want to fix or what we want to change, because it's all been recorded. It's all right here, and we can look at it. And MIDI, so that you can fix things really fast, is awesome. And so that you can have MIDI guitar, or you can have MIDI bass, and then MIDI drums, and you can quickly just change a part and be like, does that sound good? Okay, great. And with Inherit Extinction, we sat down with those guys and we listened to their songs, and we changed this part, we mixed this part. Okay, let's take this part out. Okay, let's add a solo. Okay, let's do a piano part. Let's do some synth right here. I mean, that stuff all happens because we were working together and we had time to analyze it and say what the song needed. Where if you force something, it's never going to be as good as if it naturally happened.
Yeah, absolutely.
And music is that way, but there's not a time thing on it. You and I could sit down for 3 weeks, and one day of those 3 weeks would be magical.
Yeah.
But why aren't all of them?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But one day really would, and we could look back and show that.
And the ear fatigue is a thing too. You go there and you hear your song back so many times, and you listen to it and you try to analyze it, and just sometimes you just need to like step away and be away from it for a minute to like be able to come back and say, oh, this is what we should do, or whatever adjustment it was that you needed to do.
Completely. That was one of the hardest lessons for me, was to learn the ear break, to actually understand that. That was another huge lesson that I learned. Anything over 80 dBs, you got probably about 2.5 hours to accurately listen to that.
Oh, wow.
If you're over 90, you got 45 minutes. If you get to 100, you got 3 minutes.
Wow.
So if you're listening to music at 100 dB, which is extremely loud,
yeah, you
got about 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Then your ears are going to be accurately telling you what it is. Also, if you wear headphones, yes, there's really nice headphones. You have open back and closed back and all these kind of things. But the pressure that the air is pushing into your ear will lay your hairs down on your ear to where your response is not as quick and your hearing is not as detailed. And that is just fact science. So thus wearing the headphones and doing these things as a singer, and you're screaming and you got your ear, and you literally cannot do that for more than an hour unless by science.
And then the other thing is too is like, what damage have you already done to your ears that like makes you incapable of hearing this or that? Because like I have tinnitus pretty bad, so I think that maybe like I might not be able to hear things like someone like you that's well trained to hear. Like, I would never know, Right,
and it's funny you bring that up, because I suffer from that as well, and I have a lot of holes in my mixing. And how you learn that is you just do some wave sweeps, and you just go through the curve, and you listen. And if you can hear the sound, and it seems like very audible to you, you put a thumb up. If the sound doesn't seem very audible to you, and it sounds messy, you kind of put a thumb down, and you'll find where your holes are. And so I have, as sad as it is, horrible holes in my whole entire mixing.
I'm sure
but what
too.
I've trained myself is acute hearing. To where if you can train yourself to where to hear like a certain pitch, like 800 hertz or 1000 hertz or 2.4K hertz, if you can hear that direct spot, well, that's kind of what you need. To think that you're going to have a full spectrum of sound, that's a mastering guy. That's someone like Thaddeus, somebody that's really done the craft and has saved his ears. It can't be, no offense, Charles, a drummer that's just been banging on cymbals his whole life thinking that, my ears sound
totally
good.
Get it. Yeah.
and someone like me who used to sit in front of 412 cabinets, 412 cabinets, and play live on stage for months. My ears are disgustingly gross, and that is, but when you learn and you use your tools to your best ability, you just say, does it sound good? No, it doesn't. Okay, does it sound good? Until all of a sudden everyone says it sounds good. Yeah. Then you're like, that sounds good. So one thing that I think that the universe could really thrive on, that would be an amazing amusement park or a ride, is if they could sit you down and give you other people's hearing.
Oh, that'd be cool. Yeah, that'd be great.
I mean, just like here's $100.
Because if I'm in
you get
a
to hear.
silent room, like my ears are screaming. You know what I mean?
Isn't that
if there's no kind of like background noise, it's just my ears are screaming. I feel like I can like pick things out and listen for things well, but just like generally, like there's always like a ringing going on.
Always, and that is just us live musicians suffering because we were going to be dead by 30 because we were rock stars.
yeah.
And then we didn't care, and then you get older, you're like, man, I kind of do care.
And nowadays, like when I play, I don't like to play without like my inner monitors or some kind of hearing protection because it's just it sets off my tinnitus and makes it worse for a couple hours. And then eventually it'll kind of back off and go away, but it definitely can like set it off and make it worse for a while.
Completely. And that is just something that as musicians, as live musicians, I hope that we can stress to the new generation.
Yeah.
You don't want to go through that because
sure.
When you get to be my age per se, and your ears are just screaming, because if you go into a completely quiet room, it is more hell for me.
Yeah.
Like it literally
I feel
is.
the same. Yeah.
And like I was cleaning, this is years and years ago, but I was cleaning an office and they had one of those silent rooms. It was an ear and, audio kind of thing. I'm a barber. I was doing janitorial work and whatnot. And when I got into that room, I was like, yeah, this is going to be awesome. And literally I came out puking.
Yeah.
Because my ears were hurt so bad. And then I couldn't even vacuum because my ears hurt so bad. Like, what kind of happened to me? What did you do? I went into a silent room, a room that had 3 doors and they all locked and there's an air gap and then you sit in it. And I was in there for about 40 seconds and I was puking and came out crying. And it's like, what the hell? But my ears, AirPod Max. If you can get those new headphones that Apple's put out, they have the noise cancellation system on there. When you activate it, it literally gives you that sensation.
Oh,
and
really?
I don't think I like it at all.
Huh.
But then it also has the 5-in-1 drivers.
The AirPods, I thought I haven't really like seen them up close too much, but they don't seem like they sit really in your ear canal very, very.
Yeah, I'm
tight.
talking about the overhead ones that they have.
Okay.
They have the new overhead ones that come out that are really big and they have the 5 drivers in it and all that stuff. And so they have this
5 drivers.
Yeah, they have this noise cancellation thing in your head that you can turn on and off. And what it does is it has microphones on the outside of the headphones that picks up the outside sound and then flips the phase.
Yeah.
So it cancels it. So I can hit a button and everything in the room is gone.
Yeah.
But then inside our head, all we hear is the tinnitus, because it is ringing like no other, to where I have to turn that off immediately. So it's like, if I'm not listening to music, I have to turn off the noise cancellation or I have a headache and I start freaking out, to where my both kids do not like it.
Yeah.
And they have really good hearing and they do not like it. So it's kind of funny because these headphones are very expensive and you get them and you're like, I think this is great. And then when you use it, you're like, wow, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But the idea of 5 speakers, I mean, here we are spoiled.
Yeah. Do you think that even with like a good set of like in-ear monitors, because it does seem to, you seem to be protecting your ears because it's blocking all the loudness that's outside, but it's also giving you what you need to hear on the inside. But like even then, it's probably still like not great for your ears, right?
Correct. Yeah. Anytime you're forcing air into your ears, it's not great for it, and by any means. And so with in-ear monitors, the more drivers you can have and the more separation of sound you can have, the better for your ears.
Yeah, the more of a seal you can get on your ears to block everything out.
Exactly.
And then you don't have to be as loud to combat noises on stage or whatever.
Yep.
So yeah, it really is worth it to invest in a good set of in-ears. Right now, I'm just using the Shure 215s, but I want to upgrade.
Yeah, and it is that way. When you really look into them, you want them molded. You want them in your ears. You want to be able to have a volume in there. You want to have multiple drivers in there. And so it gets to be a pretty penny where you're looking at $2,500 for a set of in-ear monitors that are literally the size of a quarter.
For sure.
You can sit down, and when we're running around goofing off, I mean, I can rip them out of my ears and you're done. And you're like, oh man. And like, I'm not good with gear. I don't care about things being pretty and looking nice. And so to spend that kind of money on headphones. So I've been rocking a Beats right now. Just wireless Beats.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and that gives me really good bass response. And so I kind of really like that. So with my costume and all that, I just incorporate the headphones into the costume so you don't look like that kind of guy. But I really love having the bass. I really like being able to have the full spectrum of the sound, not just being stuck in my ears.
Right on.
And so with those Apple Air Maxes, they have that 5-in-1 technology that the whole world has gone to now, to where you have the center channel, you have front left, front right, rear left, rear right. And so that goes. So with the headphones, when you turn really fast, It moves with you.
Oh, wow.
Because you can go faster than the sound because it's analyzing the sound outside. So like their headphones are not designed to go running. They're not designed to like listen to while you're active. They're literally designed for you to sit on your ass, close your eyes, and listen to music.
Yeah.
That's what that is, because you can outrun it.
That'd be interesting to check those out. I'm sure it's quite the experience to when you are just sitting there listening. It probably sounds amazing.
For example, I had them on yesterday and my brother called me, and when he was talking to me, I could not stop hearing crickets.
Oh.
And it was so real that I looked behind me thinking maybe I was like standing around crickets. Like it was stupid real behind me because it was those back ones. And eventually about, 10 seconds in the conversation, I said, "Hey, bud, are you outside?" And he's all, "Yeah." I'm like, "Holy shit, dude, I know right where you are." And when he would rotate his phone, my whole head would rotate.
Wow.
And you could hear the sound to where the wind was coming from his fans, from where the breeze was coming.
It's like you're
where the
in
crickets,
the room.
I mean, it was one of the weirdest feelings to me, to where he said, "What shoes am I wearing?"
Wow.
And I told him, "Flip-flops." Because you can hear it so perfectly.
Yeah.
To where when you have to look behind you because you have headphones on,
Yeah.
they've done it right. And that's kind of the the way the sound's going. I mean, we have been into stereo since 1979. We've had channel left, channel right, stereo.
And that's it, right?
That's it. And 2020 came out 5.1. And so now that's everything. Every song is mixed in 5.1.
Wow.
I haven't even got the capabilities yet to do that stuff because it's just such a different world. But when you get there, you're like, oh my God.
It takes panning to such another level, I'm sure.
Infinite level. What you can have going on is like, if you really listen to it, the drums now go forward and backwards through your head.
Wow.
And so like the drummer will go forward and back. And
So
to
you
where
can hear
the
like
snare,
the cymbals in front and the floor tom and back.
And the snare will hit you and the decay will go forward, and the snare will hit you and the decay will go backwards, and the floor tom will hit you and you'll look to your right, and then the left tom will hit and you'll look to your left, and all of a sudden the singer went through your head, and now the guitar player solo started at left top and it went to back right rear.
Wow.
Because it went right through you, but it went this way, then it went up. And so the capability of sound now is not only can it go side to side, which we always have done, it goes up and down now.
Huh.
And that's the universe of sound. So like you can literally hear above you and you can hear below you, to where when we listen to drums, that is recording drums.
Wow.
You want to hear drums in the sphere. You want to hear drums in the room. That's why you're recording a room. They've now taken that to the next level, to where you can listen to pretty much any music that's came out in the last year, and 5.1 lossless sound. And when Apple did the test, 1% could hear the difference.
Yeah, it's when you don't know what you're listening for.
There you go.
Yeah.
You don't know. Now, the best part is how many of those 1% liked that sound? Hardly any. And like it took me a while to understand if I even like this sound. Because you're so used to stereo, just like what we talked about earlier in the podcast with Led Zeppelin and the analog
when
sound.
That's all you know, and
when
then
all you know,
to this new thing,
this new sound. And so, like, if I'm sitting in my house and I have my eyes closed and I'm on the couch, those headphones are the greatest things in the world.
Yeah,
because I can hear forwards, backwards, everything. I mean, vocals sound like they're inside of you.
Yeah,
they literally sound like they're inside of you, and you can hear them breathe.
I bet for something like video games, especially, like that directional, ability to hear like that must be just great for gaming.
Completely.
Sure.
And I assume some of these products that we have now that we're using for music probably got started because of the porn industry and gaming.
Yeah.
Because of so much of that stuff. I mean, any of the visual things that we see on computers, any of the visual stuff, all thanks to the porn industry.
Yeah.
We need to have our 4K because we need to see that shit. Don't get me wrong, dude. It had nothing to do with movies. It had nothing to do with cartoons or television shows or anime. It was 100% porn.
Yep.
So when you get to audio, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
We have to have really good audio in porn. So you're going to somehow make it up. So they've been pushing this world for us completely to get us into this technology now, to where now we can use that at our disposal.
Wow.
And it's thanks to those guys really pushing the envelope. I mean, in 1984, they were really trying to figure out how they could get the best shot and the best picture and everything. And this has been going on forever.
Yeah. It just exponentially gets better and better and better.
Always. And so, yeah. So thank you so very much, Charles.
Dude, of course, man.
Just doing what you're doing.
Been a pleasure. See if I have anything else left to ask you here before we go. Is there anything you want to promote, plugs that we didn't talk about?
Again, just the Bloody Pineapples. We'll be doing that with Sweater for an Astronaut, New World Center, and Otharist. That's going to be going on October 9th. You can get tickets from any of us. We have them going on there. I highly recommend getting your tickets beforehand, save you a little bit of money.
Yeah.
So we'll be at the space and things like that, or find us on Facebook. I'll be doing some promotion on social media and things like that about the 1 month mark here, probably later this week. Again, we'll have an album coming out, and the House Dark sampler will be available and some things like that. But yeah, I'll just be in the scene doing that thing. And if you guys need any music, housedark.com, or find Jake LaRoche on Facebook, or get a hold of Charles. We're just doing it.
Right on, man. Well,
thank you so much.
Thank you again for coming. And man, if you want to do this again, just hit me up, brother.
Will do, man. Cheers.
All right, buddy.